Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We're in for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. At least for this working week, it is remaining very cold indeed. Temperatures by day really struggling to get into the double digits, and overnight widely down close towards freezing. Now initially earlier this week it's been mostly in the east, but those cooler temperatures in the day and especially at night are going to become more widespread as we see these colder air masses from the east stretch further westwards. Now fortunately into the weekend we are likely to see those colder air masses start to subside, with some slightly milder air starting to push in. However, it is due to lower pressure moving in off the Atlantic and sitting down to our south, becoming a bit of a cut-off system, which means it's very slow moving and isolated, and that could mean we also see lots of heavy rain, and specifically slow moving heavy rain. That means it could linger for quite a period of time. We're starting to see that on that day 4 and day 5 charts from the latest UKV. As we stretch into the longer range, a similar sort of pattern is looking likely. We are still going to see some blocking patterns further northwards, which does continue to keep a spanner in the works. It's very unlikely we see a particularly mobile jet stream. It does look like it's going to be very slow moving. That could allow us to become under higher pressure at times, but also could keep us under these cut-off lows, keeping it very unsettled. Air masses still very uncertain, but it does look likely as we head into early May we will be back towards average, maybe above or below, dependent of course on the positioning of the blocking. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can see there are a few showers down the east coast at the moment, and there was a little bit more activity earlier than we initially anticipated. With this extra precipitation and thick cloud, again, it has kept those temperatures really quite cold through most of today. And you can see the temperatures this evening are coldest in the east, milder further westwards, but still relatively chilly with the east and northeasterly flow, and we are likely to see those temperatures fall away quite widely overnight tonight, of course peaking around the early hours of the morning. Temperatures perhaps close to freezing. Now if you look at the latest UKV, you can see those showers heading down the east coast earlier today, and there are a few potentially overnight tonight, but most should be light or even non-existent. You can see a few areas of clearer skies overnight, and that's where we could see an isolated frost, but a bit too much cloud, I think, if anything, too widespread. Into tomorrow, it does look like a drier day with more sunshine, but again, brisk north to easterly wind will keep it feeling very cold. As we head into Thursday, we do see some clearer skies in places, and that could allow more of a widespread frost start to take place, and a few showers again through Thursday afternoon. The wind direction is still coming in from the northeast, but you can see precipitation edging in from the west, and that's the start of the transition to more of a westerly flow. And you see those showers starting to try and push in through Friday, still seeing a few showers in places, thicker cloud building, and we start to see that transition through Saturday to that cut-off low to our south. Look at that, areas of slow moving heavy rain heading up from the south. You can see it persists through much of Saturday evening, through much of Sunday as well, accompanied by milder air, I must say, so it is going to turn a little bit warmer, but it is going to be very unsettled. You can see the upper temperatures trending back towards average, so nothing incredible, but compared to what we have at the moment in many areas, it is going to be quite a contrast. Widely down below freezing, down to maybe -5 to -7 degrees in places, and you can see it falls further before eventually rising into the weekend, but of course accompanied by heavy rain. Now to look at the max temperature, you see earlier today really struggling to get into the double digits in many areas in the east, at best maybe 15 degrees further westwards. As we head into Wednesday morning, again a frost developing in northern areas. We see clearer skies further southwards with cloud around 6 or 7 degrees, but will still feel pretty cold. Into Wednesday afternoon, again temperatures maybe getting more into the double digits through less precipitation, a few breaks in the cloud with a bit more sunshine around, so temperatures up by a degree or 2. And then if we head into Thursday, again temperatures widely close towards freezing as we see clearer skies, but again very dependent on cloud amounts, so it could change at very short notice. And then as we head into Thursday afternoon, another chilly day, widely just about getting towards double digits, maybe 13, 14 degrees at best somewhere along the south coast. Into Thursday, or Thursday through to Friday, sorry, look at that, quite a widespread frost in northern and eastern areas, and then by Friday afternoon, again cold, but it is slowly turning a bit milder. Another frost potentially into Saturday morning, but by Saturday afternoon, temperatures again struggling to get above the single digits further northwards, but in the south, where we see that cut-off low pushing in with cloud, rain, but also milder air, we see temperatures 16, 17 degrees, and into Sunday, a similar picture, 16, 17 degrees. In that corner in the east, we do have the milder air, and we do have some breaks in the cloud and rain. That's going to allow those temperatures to rise. So it could turn milder this weekend in the south and east. The area is actually coldest at the moment, but it will be accompanied by a lot more precipitation. Further northwards here still looks pretty cold indeed, as we've still got some cold air trapped underneath that approaching cloud and rain. So it could remain cold all the way through the weekend for some of you further northwards. Now, if you look at the latest GFS to see what is in store over the course of the next few weeks, again, you can see the northeasterly wind continuing over the coming hours. Eventually, low pressure sits to our south, trying to edge northwards, and as it does, it starts to bring more widespread heavy rain. As we progress through early next week, we see more of these slow-moving lows over the top of us and out to our west, keeping things really quite horrible and unsettled. And then eventually, as we enter the longer range, we see further blocking to our north, and it just again keeps low pressure over the top of us. The jet stream is not coming in from the west. It's all wavy, which is allowing this very slow-moving pattern, and it just generally keeps us relatively chilly and relatively unsettled. Yes, we could see areas of high pressure building at times, like right at the end of the run, but of course, the wind direction doesn't really aid anything particularly mild. Actually, it does remain fairly chilly. Now, if you do compare to the GM, you can see continued northeasterly wind over the coming days. And again, low pressure gets trapped over the top of us through the weekend, keeping us very unsettled into the early part of next week. We still see those blocking patterns to our north, but a slightly different orientation with more of a northeasterly. But interestingly, if you're putting upper air temperatures, we actually see some milder air here. And this is because initially we see a plume of warm air into Europe, and that air eventually turns towards the UK and turns towards the west and comes in along this brisk easterly wind. So yes, we would look at this and think it's going to be quite cold, but actually being early May with warm air to our east, it actually could be pretty mild. If we do zoom in, temperatures maybe into the high teens. I wouldn't expect it to be exceptionally mild, and that's because we still have some relatively cold air or cold sea surface temperatures, across the North Sea, which will always cool down those temperatures. But you can see across in the near continent, it's 24 degrees, where we don't have to deal with the cold North Sea. So you can see that it is going to be a struggle to see anything warm, especially if it's from the east. But even the GEM here, showing a glimmer of hope of something a little bit better if the overall sort of synoptic pattern does set up to be this way. I must say it's not favoured, but it is a possibility. Now, if you could finally compare to the east of the ref, again a northeasterly wind continuing to move in over the next few days. Eventually low pressure gets trapped to our south, and then again we see blocking patterns around, and towards day 10 we're kind of in between weather systems with a bit of a northerly wind pushing in, generally chilly air making its way. But you can see that there is some pretty warm air arriving through the weekend to early next week for much of Europe, apart from the UK really, and that's because they're sat on the eastern edge of this cut-off low, drawing up a southerly wind, whereas we're kind of in the area where the air is stationary. And that means there's lots of warm air over Europe, which could move our way at times. That's why, as we're towards day 10, there definitely is a milder signal, not because we are in a sort of a mild direction in terms of wind direction, but there are a lot more milder air mass nearby, which just increases the odds that we get trapped within that. If we do have a look at the ensembles, you can generally see from the GFS it's cold over the next 3 or 4 days, but into the weekend it does improve for the final days of April. Precipitation does increase substantially though, and that is the unfortunate thing. Milder air is going to be accompanied by a lot more rain. You can see as we head into early May, temperatures generally hovering around average and pretty moderate precipitation. No massive deluges, which is expected, really. We're not expecting to see anything huge, especially with the jet stream being pretty immobile. Still is chances of very heavy rain, but it is likely to be convection based, which the ensembles won't pick up at this time frame. So near enough what we expect, around average, precipitation picking up. If you do look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see chilly over the next few days, but by early to middle of next week, we should be back towards average around the mid-teens. We could see a few days getting higher, but again, that will depend on the exact wind direction. If you do finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, look at the midnight run, again, broadly very similar. Cold over the next few days, higher precipitation towards the weekend, and then generally hovering around average to start May. A few more ensemble members going a little bit more above average by a few degrees, which perhaps is signs that we could tap into that very mild air that is pushing into Europe. But I must say the most favoured scenario is us to have some influence from that air, but not a sort of a direct hits like the GM did start to show, and perhaps some of these ECMWF ensembles are as well. We'll just have to wait and see, but it could allow things to warm up a little bit more into early May. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like it will be a particularly dry warmth. If it does arrive, we do look like we're going to stay near lower pressure. Maybe not massive deluges, but definitely lots of showers and convective areas. So we'll just have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed only a few more days of this cold conditions. It's been around for the past week or so now. Could say pretty chilly indeed over the next few days. So do wrap up warm. Hopefully into next week, things do look better. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you again for another video soon.